This episode of the Paycast podcast is sponsored by Sigma, a direct processor for faster payments and higher profits. Learn more at sigma.com.
Hello and welcome into the Paycast Network. I am your host today, Chase Cannell, and I'm joined by a few very fine gentlemen, starting with my co-host, the best beard in the business, James Ringstaff. How are you today?
Hey, everyone.
James.
Doing good, Chase. Good to see you again.
You as well. We're also joined by a very special guest, the VP of Sales from Valor Paytech, Marty McMillan.
Oh.
How are
Hey,
you, Marty?
Chase. Good to see you this morning.
You as well. Thank you for joining us.
Always good to be with you, James.
Always a pleasure, Marty.
Thank you.
So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about a few things. First off, Marty's 30-plus years of experience, how he got to where he is, and where he's going from here. We're also going to touch on WEX integrations, how Valor Paytech is handling WEX in the market at the moment. And we also have a very special surprise at the end, and that's all you get for now. That's the teaser. So stick to the end. But to start, like I said, Marty, 30-plus years of experience from Hypercom, PAX, Sound Payments, now Valor, Vice President of Sales. Tell me how you got to where you are, and what did some of those steps along the way mean to where you are now with Valor?
Well, I grew up in the retail business, both my family and my wife's family. And growing up in retail, that's what I wanted to do. I specialized in that in college, got out, was working for Hartshafter Marks, and an opportunity came along in the credit card processing business with it was very early on. We still did knuckle busters and still did, lookups for any sale over $25. Mm-hmm. But they had 35,000 merchants in Florida, and it was a place to meet more retailers and get into the business. And like many people know, in payments, you don't get out. So I was hooked, and I've loved it. I've spent time on the software side of the business, on the processing side of the business, certainly on hardware, some things out on the bleeding edge, leading some of the early tap-to-pay initiatives. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of arrows in my back, but certainly I've learned a lot and met a lot of great people, and that's probably the best part of it.
Before we get into the next point, we should probably go ahead and mark down, we need to do another episode on what a knuckle buster is.
Sure.
It is 2025, but we'll save that one.
Speaking of 2025, that experience going all the way back to the Hypercom days, I think a lot of reps, at least those that I've come in contact with, the extent of their knowledge really goes back to like the WEX series devices, right? But the Hypercom, those go way back. Tell me about your time there.
They do. Well, I started there in '97, and we were doing the T7s and the T7.
Let's see, I would have been 6.
Just take it easy.
Know how old I was in '97?
All right. I had 3 sons in '97. So,
Okay.
So great products, but the key really to Hypercom was their understanding of the networking piece and being able to grab a transaction and move it quickly.
Yeah.
And that set them apart. And they did a lot of. At one time, while I was there, we were the largest purveyor of credit card terminals in the world. Verifone came out with their new series after that, where you could do multi-apps, and we were in a place of catching up.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to do some other things, so I did that.
Okay. Wow. Now, just taking a moment to just step back here and to look from where you started and where we are today, especially with your time at Valor, how would you say that the role of both the ISO and the resellers has changed over that course of time?
Well, when I started, there were no ISOs, so
Okay. All right.
let's be clear, that was kind of a new thing. So whether you're an ISO or whether you were a bank rep or whatever you are, if you're taking a product to anyone, but let's say a merchant, then you need to understand what that merchant needs, what their requirements are. And there are a couple of ways of doing it. Certainly there are some ISOs who go out and they say, I'm going to just sell B2B and I'm going to specialize in this one vertical, and they get really good at it and they do a good job of it. But that's precarious. You've got one line of business.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad strategy if you pick 3 or 4 and run with that. Okay. Otherwise, you can just be really light in everything, and then you're at the whims of somebody who comes in and knows a lot more than you do and can provide a better solution.
Right.
So true.
So, and I think you've already just touched on it a little bit, but for Valor specifically, what is kind of the mission of Valor? What is driving you and the rest of your team to do what you do? And what is kind of setting you apart from your point of view from other terminal providers in the market?
Well, we're really trying to look ahead and anticipate what the ISO, who is our customer, and the merchant, which is the ISO's customer, needs. One thing we do is we do not get between the ISO and the merchant.
Okay.
And that's very important. But more importantly, we're trying to provide a solution that the ISO can take to the marketplace, or a bank can take to the marketplace for that matter, and give to a merchant that allows them to consolidate all of their payment needs and even into some banking needs and that kind of thing, where the merchant then can manage their business better.
Right.
They can manage it more efficiently and significantly more efficiently. And we can get into examples as we go along this morning. But there are some great ways, as simple as, hey, every transaction you make, whether it's on e-commerce or it's from a virtual terminal or a recurring payment or out on a physical device, it gets posted automatically to QuickBooks, to that merchant's QuickBooks account. That's incredibly time-saving and valuable.
Yeah, especially for a smaller business that's kind of
absolutely.
doing it all on their own. A little bit different than the knuckle
Yes.
busters, huh?
Yeah.
Now, speaking of meeting the needs of these merchants, right? I've got here 3 of Valor's terminals. Now, this is by no means the full list of all that they have to offer, but I do think that this represents kind of the wide range of devices, because we've got the VP800 over there on my far right, we got the VL500 here in the middle, and then, of course, my favorite, the little Rocket for the Bluetooth reader. And so looking at all of Valor's offerings, because you got the VL series, the VP series, you got the virtual terminal, you got the mobile app, can you walk us through who these devices are built for?
Okay, that's a great question.
Great question.
Thank you,
I try.
Jace.
I have my moments sometimes.
So, I mean, everybody's trying to accomplish something else, right? Let's start with the Rocket. For those people who, they've been using Square and having to deal with the lack of customer service and those kind of things, this gives them a very inexpensive way to do credit card processing or debit card processing or gift cards or whatever. It does everything on there, literally credit and PIN debit. It does swipe, does tap, it does tip. Everything's there. So that makes it really nice. It comes in through our virtual terminal from the phone and posts real time, so the merchant can manage their business from that.
Now, I do need to kind of sidestep here for just a moment.
Sure.
And I have the $1 million question here. You've got the VL line and the VP line, and when you look at them on a spec sheet, and even on the way that they're named, they're so similar.
Sure.
So you got the VP 500, you got the VL 500, you got the VP 550, you've got the VL 550.
Easy
what
but
gives
very
there?
critical answer.
What's the
okay?
reason for that?
It's supply chain management. Okay, so for us, VL and VP just designates where did we have it manufactured. Okay, so what we're trying to do is make sure we always have product for our customers. So we have them manufactured from different manufacturers in different countries around the world, and this is just a way for us to keep track of things and provide you with the products you need.
And I take it that was especially brought on by COVID?
That exacerbated it, yes. But it's a great solution and being able to do that, and it gives us some pricing power, obviously, with multiple folks building essentially the same thing. So that's nice. I mean, there's just a lot of advantages to going to market that way rather than relying on one source.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
And it gets interesting, too, because I'll take these devices out into the marketplace, let's say a VP 100 and a VL 100. And I've got customers who swear the VP's better and others who swear the VL's better.
I'm on the VP side.
Yeah,
for me, I know they're spec the same, and I know on paper like it should be comparable. But in my everyday experience, the VP just seems to edge slightly faster, slightly better.
And I've got people who would fight with you.
So what you're saying, Marty,
and agree,
is that it's all just in his head.
You know, my wife says the same thing.
Stand in line.
That's right. Okay, so want to go to, let's talk about WEX, right?
Let's talk about fleet in general.
Let's talk about fleet cards first specifically. So let's talk about why they're critical first off, and what type of merchants need to be using them.
Okay, so wow, it's a surprisingly wide range of merchants who use fleet. I believe we support 15 or 18 MCC codes for that. It's a large number.
Yeah.
So the obvious answer, a gas station or a truck station, you pull in, you fill up, you get gas, whatever. But anybody that sells tires and has commercial customers coming through, C-stores, it's a huge market for C-stores, believe it or not. And we've got a new pin pad that connects to the VL 550, and so they can do it under the plexiglass. So that'll be out first of the year. I'm hoping earlier than that, but I'm going to tell you first of the year to be comfortable. Actually, it came out and we didn't like it, and we sent it back to get it right.
That's good.
So I'll just be really, really open with you.
Yeah.
It's got to be done right, or we don't bring it to market.
Right.
And I could go down a list of things we've pulled off the market after we got into beta.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned that you've been here since the dawn of time, it seems.
Thank
in the
you,
payment
James.
He
space.
said that. Remember that. He said that, not me.
So I have to ask, from your perspective, can you tell us a little bit about the history of WEX? Maybe some of what it was like in the earlier days, and then kind of give us the high-level overview of how that's progressed to where we are now.
Well, in the old days, you had a piece of paper and you wrote down the odometer readings.
Okay.
What?
Right? And you wrote...
Really?
Yes. And even today, you need to put the odometer readings into the terminal for a lot of stuff, okay?
Yeah.
But you just write it down.
Can you imagine putting an extra 0 on an odometer reading? Like this? Actually, this car doesn't run based on the number that you gave me.
And you ran into a lot of issues like that.
Yeah, sure.
And so there were disputes, and there are all kinds of. And back in the old days, since it was on paper, now everything's on microfiche, so you had to go back and look it up. And for ISOs and processors and banks, that was just a royal pain.
Yeah.
So the way we automate things today and just make it easier and easier, where you can take all of that information real quickly, get it into an electronic device where it's captured. You can do checks in there so that you know that can't have that many digits.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Now, for some of our younger users out there, a check is?
No, a check digit, or you can have...
like a system that's checking, not
yes.
like a written out check?
Okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
You can have the ability in the system to make sure you didn't make a mistake. How's that?
Got it.
Okay. I'll dumb it down as far as I need.
So, then I guess my question then becomes, what advantages does being able to support fleet cards and WEX on the Valor platform, what does that give you over the competitors?
Well, right now there's only one other device that's really doing any fleet card volume at all. And without naming names, that device has been on the market forever.
Longer or shorter than you've been on the market?
In this case, maybe as long. It is ancient.
Maybe we'll have a poll down in the description, which one, Marty or
Been in
the
market longer?
But these devices are they're very old technology, and they don't go back and allow you to sit in the back room and update all your prices dynamically. They don't show the merchant their transactions as they happen, so that they can print out a receipt, from the transaction list, or even do a refund or a partial refund off the transaction list, which you can do within our system.
because they're gateway powered devices.
That's correct.
Right. Okay.
Everything we do is powered out of the cloud.
Why do you think that is? I mean, we're talking about a device. Again, we won't name any names here, but that device goes back pretty far, right?
Yeah.
And here comes Valor with this gateway-powered Android device that brings all of these conveniences. I don't know. I'm just a little surprised because I would think more people would try to jump in onto this program, but it just kind of seems like you guys are owning this space right now.
I think we are right now.
Mm-hmm. Is there some sort of complexity or something to the whole WEX system that would deter other groups from doing it?
We do Voyager and we do Fuelman and we do all of them within there, right?
Yeah.
So you can go into our system and you can set all your pricing and you can do it by categories.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my fuel prices and here's my accessory prices, oil and diesel, conditioner and everything else. Then here are all my tires and those kind of things and batteries. And then we even have a C-store section where if they want to put inventory from a C-store in there. So you can do it all there, and it's just so convenient that way. It really brings them along into a much easier way of managing their business.
Any plans to expand this program beyond the VL500 and VL550?
Oh, I think we will, but right now that's what we certified coming out of the gate, because the folks who helped us put it together, that was the device they wanted to get run with. It works remarkably well, but I'm sure there'll be other opportunities.
So, talking about the certifications and the devices, it's been my experience that a lot of reps out there who are interested in boarding on Valor with WEX and Fleet Guards, that they submit the request to us and they just kind of have this vision that they're going to receive the Valor device and it's going to be plug and play, ready to go for WEX. But it's a little bit more involved than that, right? A little bit more work to set up. What are some of the complexities there?
It starts by going out and understanding what that particular merchant needs and who they are. So they'll have an MCC code assigned to them, and it has to match Fleet Card for that. So if you have a good, valid MCC code, then you have to look at what are their inventory requirements. So are they doing fuel? Are they doing tires? Are they doing batteries? Is it a service operation where they're doing repairs? You can go down the list of it. And so you've got to bill those product lines. It's nice and easy to do online. And there's an import feature, so that makes it easy. So all of that's there, but it has to be done. Just like any other merchant that comes on board and they want to do a light product offering, it still has to be filled out. Okay, so that has to be done, and then you have to determine, is this New Jersey, and I'm going to take a wireless terminal to the car, and they're going to pay sitting in the car, or am I in a C-store where I've got to have something under the glass? Or am I in a nasty repair place where instead of a slick terminal, it's going to get stuff on it. Maybe I want a matte finish that,
Yeah.
So you just make all those decisions as to what you want.
Okay.
So you mentioned that the two terminals that Valor has now that take WEX, the VL500 and VL550. How are you seeing a response from resellers, merchants? Is it a positive response to those in
Very
particular?
positive.
Can you talk more on that? What are they liking about them?
They like, one, that it's easier to use than anything else on the market.
Okay.
It's more full function than anything else on the market.
Yep.
Gives them better reporting. It gives them the merchant better management on the back end.
Okay.
And it goes back to what I was saying about knowing the merchant. If you know what the merchant needs and what their requirements are, and you come in as a businessman and meet those kind of needs rather than as a sales guy and just trying to provide a product, then they're going to stay with you longer. They're going to have a relationship with you because you're bringing them value, you're helping them save money, you're helping them usually save time.
Yep.
And that's critical for anyone.
Okay. So you kind of touched on it there, but in the terminal market as a whole, outside of just the 500, 550, every terminal you guys make, every terminal that everyone makes, and outside of the things that you've seen over the last, 300 years that you've been working here?
Thank you.
What are some trends that you're seeing now in the last year or so that you think are kind of pushing where the market is going that'll make, what's going to make terminals successful as we move forward over the next 5-10 years?
Sure, and we don't look at it as just physical devices. Right, we're an omni-channel supplier. So we have physical devices at the point of sale. We have a full line of virtual capabilities, whether it's a sale for a moto, or whether it's a recurring payment, or whether it's an e-invoice, or any of those, even doing a QR code that you can take and post, or whether it's a full line of e-commerce capabilities. We've got several already done. WooCommerce, Shopify, Magento, all of those. And then we've got APIs that people have built out to, did I hear this number correct, 120 something other, because people build their own, and there are a lot of smaller places out there. So we've been very active in e-commerce.
Okay.
And for the merchant to be able to sit and look at all their transactions from everywhere they're doing business in one place at one time and get a report on that, to be able to do tip adjustments if that's something they need to do in the same place, that's a huge value to the customer.
Right.
And the salesperson going out to speak to them goes in and says, let me show you how to, save one full day a month in productivity, or whatever they've computed before they go in and talk to the person.
Right. Do you think that, obviously, forever people in this industry have wanted things to be more streamlined, less places they have to go to see things, kind of like you're mentioning? Do you think that it's getting even more hyper-focused to, if somebody's running a business and they can't see everything they need to see in 30 seconds on the same page, they're going to go somewhere else? Like, as we have phones today where I can get all the information in the world in 2 seconds, do you see that kind of bleeding into the market where they want everything right there in front of them at all times?
I will tell you that 2 of my sons run their own businesses. And yes, if they can't manage everything, they're going to find some way to be able to do it. And I see that in the businesses I speak with.
Right.
Got a lot of friends who own their own businesses. I was at a wine store the other day where you check out and then you do your gift part, and it wasn't connecting. And he was so frustrated. And I'm like, can I help you?
That's an easy one when they're already mad, right?
Yeah.
This episode of the Paycast podcast is sponsored by Sigma, a direct processor for faster payments and higher profits. Learn more at sigma.com.
So you mentioned a bit earlier the API features that you make available and the integration points. I think last I counted there were 6 or 8 different shopping cart integrations available. What is Valor's approach then to the ISV and reseller partnerships, and how do you account for adaptability with the devices that you offer and opening up those integration points?
There are so many applications out there. I can see the way it's going, having more ISV partners than ISOs. Right? For one thing, the ISV doesn't need to get certified or anything else, right? It's just building some software. But one of the things we do that kind of sets us apart is at the end of the process, we certify whatever integration they've made, and we make sure it works right, that it plays well with other parts of the ecosystem, and that's critically important. Not everyone does that. The other thing we do is we try to make it as full-featured as we possibly can for an ISV. So before I ever let them go talk to my technical people, I have an interview with them and talk about, how many people do you have? What kind of experience do you have? And having been in development in the past, I can ask some of those questions. On the other side, once I get them on and my folks are talking to them based on the information I've given the technical side, they'll lead them through all the different ways we can do things. And when they're ready to go, we'll give them credentials so they can sign on. We'll give them full documentation, because everything that you see, all the massive stuff you see on our page, that's the public information. There's some really good private stuff behind that when you sign on and you get credentials through, one of the salespeople at Valor. Then we give them a sandbox and sample code and everything, so they can be off and running, and it's a really seamless operation. My ISV support group's there to help them if they run into any headaches. They're not left out on their own. Hopefully you've seen some of that and some of the work we've done with ISVs that work with you.
For our work so far, it's been a very smooth experience.
I appreciate that. And if it's ever not, let me know.
I've got you on speed dial, so you'll be the first to know.
We'll talk about it on here.
Yeah. And then, we certify them and move them over to production. But they don't get moved over to production until they pass muster.
Okay.
So let's talk to merchants. With all the great tech that you guys have out, there's obviously still merchants out there that for whatever reason are using old, outdated technology. Maybe they just like that, but a lot of times they don't like that, and they just haven't found the push or the need or the motivation to move from the old, outdated stuff to what you have here. What would you tell somebody that maybe needs the extra push or the reason, or is just maybe intimidated to move off of what they're used to onto a more tech-forward Valor type of system?
I would start by asking them how they're using the system they're using now, what they're trying to accomplish, and discern where we've got some differentiation and some value, and then push forward the value proposition for those areas. It's not a one-size-fits-all. I wish I could give you a simple answer to a pretty broad question.
Right.
But you really, today you can't just go in and be a vendor. Mm-hmm. If you do, you're really, you can live, but you're not going to do well. Mm-hmm. If you go in and you choose to be a business consultant, to work with your merchants and your customers and build value for them, just by asking a few questions, this isn't rocket science.
Yeah. Right.
Then you can have merchants who stay with you for a much longer period of time, which means your portfolio is worth more, and they give you references.
Right.
I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's really struggling with that same thing I was dealing with. Think you could go over and help him? Mm-hmm. What's a lead worth, right?
Right.
And that's so true. I think that's definitely a pitfall that I've seen over the years, is that sales reps will just lock themselves into one device.
Oh, yeah.
And oftentimes, it's a device from like 10 some years ago, because back in the day, they went through a training course with that device. That's what they know. That's what they're familiar with. They're comfortable with it. And they look at all these other great devices that are coming out. And I don't know if it's fear or if they just don't want to put in the effort. I don't know what it is, but like they're just stuck with that device. And I think especially today in an age with AI, everything is just moving so fast, right? And if you're not directly plugged into these channels, you're not going to be able to keep up. And so definitely think that's a very real issue that people are having right now, where they're falling behind because they're not wanting to put in that effort to learn these new devices and what features are available. And they're not asking the right questions either, both for their own education, but also for their merchants.
Okay, I got up this morning and there's the green sheet, right? Mm-hmm. And by 11 o'clock today, my digital transaction will come in, and I go through that, and you're on LinkedIn, and you see what people are doing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You've got to do that in this business today to stay on top of things.
Yeah, it's just moving too fast.
Yeah, it is.
The gap is only widening at this point. Like if you stay here, everything's moving so fast that you're pretty behind, but give it another 6 months or a year, and you'll be maybe too far to catch up.
Yeah, you need to set time aside every day to do some reading.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It can be after 5:30 to 6:30 in the evening or whatever, but you need to set some time aside to build yourself up as a professional.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So we've talked about WEX. We've talked about Valor. We've talked about Marty's vast experience in
what was it, 350 years?
The whole world, the history of the world. But let's talk about the surprise that we teased at the beginning. Flex Factor.
Yes.
Tell me about Flex Factor, what it is, and what it is doing for your merchants.
So this goes back to the whole idea of a merchant growing their business and an ISO providing a solution to help that, okay? Because obviously, as an ISO, the more business you're doing, the more your portfolio is worth, okay? So what Flex Factor is a risk management tool, if you will. We all get declines. Someone comes in, they pay, and there's a decline. And what this is, it's an organization who's built an algorithm that we have in our cloud, and it allows us to look at that transaction and for them to decide, I'll take responsibility for that transaction, and I'll go back and get it, and I'm going to approve it to the merchant. Now, the merchant signs up for this in advance, and then they have two options. They can either have a little note come up on their screen that says FlexFactor was willing to approve this, and they can say yes or no, or it can be totally seamless and they don't even know about it. So it can work either way.
Why is that flexibility so important compared to other legacy systems?
I don't know anybody else that would take a declined transaction and approve it on the fly. I mean, literally less than a second. And you know, the merchant's gonna get paid, period, whether they collect it or not. So, you know, they just have ways of going back and representing that transaction and other technologies they've developed, and knowing whether they think there's a good opportunity to collect that. And right now they're approving about 30% of the declined transactions.
Wow.
So if I'm a merchant and I go, okay, I don't, however many declined transactions, whatever percentage that is of their business, and I can improve that by almost a third, you know, that's just money to the bottom line. Because if you look at it and you go, okay, I've got a $100 decline transaction, and I'm working on a 2% net profit. How much do I have to spend? Well, I've got to spend $5,000 to make up for that one decline transaction I missed, because I may have spent a lot of time working with that person, you know, trying on clothes or whatever it is,
right?
And now I don't get the transaction.
I feel like we could have a whole podcast. My mind right now is racing with questions that we did not anticipate.
He
and now
answered like 3 of them in
because
a row there.
You know, usually, you know, Marty and I, we've known each other for quite a while now. How many years? 7, 8 years?
7, 8 years.
And so I don't go all the way back to the dawn of time, but we've, you know, a small sliver of that. We've known each other, and usually when something's on the roadmap, Marty will be like, you know, hey, we've got this coming up. Here's the ETA. I'll come up. We'll talk about a demo device or whatever you need to get you ready for this. I don't know if it was purposely for this podcast, but I was left in the dark on this FlexFactor.
Were you hiding this from
And
him?
so I'm hearing about this right now in real time.
No. That's good.
And
We get your
so
best
We've
reaction.
had this out on all kinds of media.
Where have you been, James?
When I came in this morning, it was made mention. They kind of just slipped under the table. They're like, hey, we're going to throw in this FlexFactor thing. Don't be surprised. I'm like, FlexFactor, what is that? And now, so I'm hearing this, right?
You don't look surprised at all, by
as
the
you
way.
talk about it, it's the beard. and that's my true feelings. But I'm hearing about this, and you're talking about how it works with this high-level overview, and like my mind is racing with questions now. I feel like we need to stop this podcast, go back to the beginning. I've got some new questions to ask you, or we need to get you up for a second podcast.
We'll do that. We'll do that mid-September.
Because I've got like 5 or 10 questions right now that I want to dive into, but we don't have time for that today. So I'm going to call you after this.
So you touched on obviously how FlexFactor, why it's important for resellers, ISVs, merchants. I mean, you named a few use cases there specifically. And I know James, all of the other questions that he's thinking of at the moment that are going to be very, very important. But I know the one that he wanted to know before we got on to this podcast and you broke his brain. He wanted to know about how FlexFactor ties directly into other integrations.
Right.
It's really not an integration. It's just an online service through the cloud that the merchant signs up for ahead of time.
So if a merchant is using, so say use case here, we are working on an app that we're developing that's running on Valor terminals. Are you saying then that if I have a merchant using the app that I developed and it's powered by Valor on the back end, that they can also tap into this FlexFactor tool? Okay. I got more questions now.
Okay. Well, my other question then is, if I was an agent, a reseller, an ISV, how would you direct me to present this to a merchant? What would be the best pitch or story to tell a merchant as to why this is going to help them control and grow their business?
I would start by going, Mr. Merchant, or Ms. Merchant, you're out there competing against Walmart and Macy's and Target and everybody else today, and they're taking transactions in lane, they're taking transactions over the phone, they're taking transactions out here on their websites, and you've got to compete with them, or your customer is going to go to someone who is doing those things.
Right.
So here's a way so that you don't just pick a terminal somewhere and go find a gateway somewhere and have your kid kludge together a shopping cart for you. You actually, the problem with doing that is great. Now you've got all three of them and none of them talk to each other. They all have different credentials and different sign-ins, and it's a mess, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So here's a way to have one sign-in for everything, one set of credentials. You can get into it now, and you can see all the transactions in one place and manage your business. That's why you choose our solution.
Okay. Awesome. So we talked a little bit earlier about industry trends, where you see the industry as a whole moving from here. Let's talk more specifically about Valor, especially because Valor is on the cutting edge of tech in this space. Where do you see Valor going in the next 3 to 5 years from this point on that kind of tech front?
Wow. Where this industry is going in the next few years.
Where do you see Valor in the next few years specifically?
Our plans are exponential growth, and we will continue to do that. We continue to be in the Fortune 5,000 fastest growing companies, and just manic growth right now. We're over 200 developers now.
Wow.
And it just continues to build on things. Probably the most important thing we've come out with is our CRM for ISOs. It is an incredibly powerful tool. I'd love to do a podcast just on the CRM.
Yeah, he gave me a brief sneak peek on that just a few days ago, and it was so much to unpack. We again didn't have time for that here.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just have you up for like an entire week, and we'll just do it in a day.
And we're going to record.
I have other work to do.
We're going to record the whole time nonstop.
With everything we continue to bring out, I almost feel like that, right?
Okay.
So that's been kind of the fun thing about being here. I'm learning new stuff every month, literally every week, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So that keeps us on our toes,
which ties in with what we were saying earlier with like those reps who would just lock in that one device. It's continually coming out every day, something new. And so with the rapid pace that all of these changes are coming, what do you expect to be the biggest change for consumers in payments over the next 3 to 5 years, or even over the next decade?
Well, I think we've seen a lot of things. They want convenience, first of all. They want to be able to purchase, whether it's an item or a service or whatever, as seamlessly and easily as they can. And so there are a lot of new technologies coming along for that. We'll see which ones are proven out. There are a number of things that customers want to do specific to rewards. And that's always touchy because at the end of the day, the merchant ends up paying for the rewards,
Right.
whether anybody wants to admit it or not.
Right.
So those are the things that you've got to balance and mediate and build good solutions for.
Yeah.
Right.
Not just something that you can sell.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the golden question for you, Marty. We've talked about the industry. We've talked about Valor, WEX. But what do you want with the 30 plus years of experience you have in the payment space and the hopefully 30 plus more years? What do you want Marty McMillan's legacy in the payment space to be?
I hope I helped a lot of people over the years grow professionally and build businesses. I think just about everybody that's ever worked for me would come back to work for me.
Okay.
And I appreciate that more than you can imagine. Great friends in this industry, and I think I hopefully have brought a lot of value to a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, from everyone that I've ever spoke to that knows you, you have.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. So with that being said, we've touched on a lot of things, not enough for James, but we never touched on enough topics on
His
this.
mind
for
just
James.
goes.
Right. But before we sign off, tell everybody how they can reach you and Valor and get in touch and work with you guys.
So reaching me is easy. It's just Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at valorpaytech.com. That's the easiest way to reach out to me.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for,
Thank
for
you.
joining
Thank
me,
you,
Appreciate
Marty.
Marty. We enjoyed the time today.
As always, thank you,
I
James.
appreciate this.
And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another episode of the Paycast Network.